Cyclone risk ramps up for Madagascar and Mauritius on today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for March 25th. We're now code yellow for this area of interest off the coast of northern Madagascar today. Could become a substantial threat to Madagascar and the Mascarene Islands. The remnants of Neville are also drifting southwards there in the South Indian Ocean, and we won't hear any more from him. Well, it's 67 days until hurricane season begins in the Atlantic, and things are looking generally quite quiet. Of course, we have an enhanced risk of severe weather across the United States today, in the deep south predominantly, so looking out for tornado risk there. We may be live later. 50 days until hurricane season in the eastern Pacific, and things are looking generally quiet here as well. Just a few little thunderstorms down near the equatorial regions, and a few clouds near Hawaii. In the western Pacific, it's not unusual to see early season activity, but none to speak of right now. It's extremely quiet across the whole basin, and a similar story for the North Indian Ocean, where there's just a few clouds. So as usual, the action is in the southern hemisphere today. No areas of interest in the Australian region. You can see Neville there, but that's drifted off into the southwest Indian Ocean region. A few thunderstorms blowing up across northern and eastern Australia there, but really nothing out of the ordinary. So a pretty decent picture. In the southwest Indian Ocean then, of course, we've got Neville drifting down there, but we've also got 90% chance for this area of interest. Meteo France, I believe, have already designated it a tropical depression, but we're not fully sure yet. But it looks like it's going to become a substantial tropical cyclone, and we'll get more news on that in a sec. And in the South Pacific, things are looking rather quiet there as well. Just a few thunderstorms towards the western reaches there near Fiji and Tonga, and possibly towards Samoa as well. A few little thunderstorms there too. So let's check this AOI. It's probably the last time I'm going to call it that before it gets named at this rate. It's 236 kilometers from Voimar in the northeastern part of Madagascar. 298 from Antsiranana on the northern tip, 321 from Antalaha further south, 455 from Tromeline, the Mauritius island, and 1012 from Mauritius itself there. It's a developing tropical disturbance, at least 35 miles per hour right now, with some indications that it may have gale force winds already. Satellite imagery is a bit of a mess right now, I'm afraid. Meteosat 9 is having real issues. There's only a few areas where we can actually check out the satellite imagery. Here's one of them from Ram Slider, and you can see the system developing quite well there right now, really getting more rotation going on, but I'm still not sure that northwestern side has tightened up enough to call it a tropical cyclone at this stage. It's still looking a little bit disheveled to me, trying to think of a better word, but there it is, blowing up decent convection, no doubt about that, and probably some strong wind gusts in there as well. Slowly getting closer to Madagascar. It's been drifting westwards very slowly, but we do expect it will quickly tilt to the southeast pretty shortly. Here's some more imagery from the Indian satellite, INSAT, and it itself has had a 3-hour outage today as well, so really we're not having any fun with the satellites. But again, you can see its progress throughout the day there, and a quick look at the infrared loop as well, just showing that northern tip there getting some convection. That's probably near where the center is right now, blowing up over that area. Looking good. And this is Neville, a quick look at that as well, sinking to the southwest, slinking away, and looking not very happy about that. It's about to get absorbed by a massive extratropical low as it gets swept southeastwards. Sea surface temperatures, still that big area of cool waters there signifying this potential La Nina, but very warm waters to the north in some parts of the eastern Pacific. In the Atlantic, those temperatures are increasing as well. The Caribbean looking decent in a few spots near Jamaica and towards the Central America, 28 degrees. In the western Pacific, looking good as well. Those temperatures continuing to rise, but the tropical zone there, the deep tropics, looking good all around there. Thousands of square miles. And looking at the North Indian Ocean there as well, Bay of Bengal, those temperatures almost completely lapping along the coastline of the Bay of Bengal, 26 degrees plus, that's the yellow zone. And in the Southwest Indian Ocean, those temperatures really warm where this disturbance is right now, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, and still 28 near Mauritius and Réunion. Around Australia, those temperatures still very warm as well, near Western Australia and north of there, 30 degrees, the Gulf of Carpentaria piping hot, and the Coral Sea as well. Compared to normal, Coral Sea doing the best there, and in the South Pacific, extremely warm waters persist north of Fiji and west and over Samoa, and to the east of there as well towards French Polynesia. Exceptionally warm waters there. Compared to normal then, the orange zones showing above average, the blue are below average, and overall it's an above average picture across the tropics. The Atlantic very much so, but nothing will capitalize on that. The Western Pacific near normal. North Indian Ocean actually has a significant cool spot there in the eastern Bay of Bengal. Southwest Indian Ocean a little bit above normal, looking at this potential cyclone, and around Australia all along the coastal areas there a little bit below normal right now, but in the Coral Sea it is above average. Oceanic heat content is very high over parts of the South Pacific and into the Coral Sea as well. Decent amounts there. Green and higher is pretty good. And in the Eastern Pacific, a few spots creeping into the yellow there, which I think we didn't even see at peak season last year. And in the Western Pacific, also getting some good amounts creeping through there as well over parts of the Philippine Sea. Well, the only thing we're looking at on the short range in the models today is, of course, this system, which the GFS is very confident about becoming a powerful cyclone, but stalling a lot, very much so in those early days there, starting to really get moving around the 29th. That's 4 days from now. But in the meantime, it rapidly intensifies at times, probably becoming a category 3 there on the Saffir-Simpson scale. GFS has a pressure minimum around 958 millibars, and then it moves southeastwards. Looks like it's going to shoot the gap between Mauritius and Réunion there for its track. Of course, it's very fine margins, and other models have different scenarios. Indeed, the CMC, I think it was, still has it going along the west coast of Madagascar. However, looking at rainfall expectations, it also shoots the gap there, but extremely high rainfall amounts near where this system is right now, obviously because it's stalling. Thankfully, there's no land areas in that exact location where it could get 68 inches of rain. But along the coast of Madagascar, we could be looking at significant amounts there as well, up towards 16 inches of rainfall along the east coast, 400 millimeters. For Mauritius and Réunion, at least 3 inches there, but if the storm moves left or right, you could be in for towards 10 inches. That would be 250 millimeters. Now in the longer range, we continue to watch this storm shoot through that gap and then move southeasterly. It doesn't want to give up though. It's just about starts to lose itself there, absorbs another little system I think by the looks of things, but it survives. It has a second life down there around 30-35 degrees south, maybe subtropical by that point, or maybe even turns completely extratropical, but doesn't affect any land areas whilst it's doing so, but just interesting to see how it really gets itself going again there briefly. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look at all our items as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. And are still waiting for a Honey t-shirt, which is still waiting for you, and we're still waiting for it. In the silly range then, not much to talk about here either. Just looking at the Australian region, we saw this in yesterday's bulletin as well, but a tropical cyclone off the top end of Australia in the first week or two of April. And there it is, becoming a tropical storm just towards the end of that, right along the coast of the top end of Australia near Groote Eylandt and also towards Nulunbee. Or Numberwhat, I get confused between the two. And obviously there it is, blowing up some storm force winds, but not too much to look at there and unlikely at this time. On this day, March 25th, 1979, we had Cyclone Melly. It didn't peak on this day, it was well on its way though, and it really ramped up, rapid intensification, and by the end of tomorrow in 1979 it would be a very powerful Category 5 storm with winds of up to 175 miles per hour, a criminally underrated storm and beautiful towards its peak. That's Cyclone Melly, which also killed 50 throughout Fiji. Well, back to today, and the first name on this year's naming list in the Atlantic is Alberto. In the Eastern Pacific it's Aletta, and in the Central Pacific it is still Hone. We're still at only 12 storms for the year so far, but it does look like we're about to increase that number by 1. In the Western Pacific the next name is Iwiniar, and in the North Indian Ocean it's still Rimal. Of course, we're code yellow for that disturbance right now, mainly due to an increasing likelihood of gale force winds and higher storm force winds on the Mascarene Islands. Next name in Australia is Olga, Southwest Indian Ocean of course Gamane, and in the South Pacific it is Peter. That's all from today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again with more updates tomorrow.